to use the 8 extraordinary vessels to treat psycho-emotional pain and suffering. And the reason for doing a course like this is because it is a timely thing right now. I don't know how many of you are back in practice now because of the coronavirus, but the truth is that when we start to see patients now, we're going to be seeing patients who are under extreme emotional stress. They're living in a state of what might be considered evolutionary stress, this pressure of this virus and the economic stress that comes with it, and the fear and doubt are making it hard for patients to sleep at night. They're increasing levels of anxiety. People are starting to feel defeated and depressed. And so it's good to have a tool that allows you to address those particular issues with your patients in a way that is effective. We are, as Chinese medical practitioners, in a unique position to do this because Chinese medical theory doesn't separate physical suffering from psycho-emotional suffering, from spiritual suffering. It's all one thing. It's like saying pain is pain. It doesn't matter if the person experiences the pain physically or the pain emotionally, or pain when they're thinking about things, or pain associated with their existence. It's all pain, it's all suffering. And so we can address that because our medical theory doesn't separate all those different kinds of pain. And in fact, as we're going to see, one of the benefits with using the 8 extras is that in chapter 8 of the Ling Shu, it basically tells us that, yes, we have a system of diagnosis, and we should look at patients in terms of qi and blood, in terms of organ function, in terms of Shen, and in terms of constitution. But the thing that is most important about the foundations of this medicine is that all that information is valuable. But now when it comes down to treating, we really need to treat according to spiritual activities, which means we need to treat our patients based on their level of consciousness. And if we expect our patients to recover from whatever suffering they have, then that change has to be initiated by change in consciousness, which is why many of the Chinese classics say the superior doctor treats the spirit first and foremost. If you treat the spirit first, the body will fall in line. So we have this approach, this sort of 3 treasures, Jing, Qi, Shen approach, that is about restoring balance. It's about restoring harmony. And it is about rectifying polarity, the balance of yin and yang in the body. And this makes it a particularly profound system for helping people who are struggling. And it is a very holistic approach, which means that as your patient comes in, regardless of what their chief complaint is, you can address all levels of suffering at the same time. And so one of the things you're going to see over the next 2 days with the 8 extras is how profoundly effective and useful the 8 extras are in the treatment of chronic psycho-emotional disorders, intense psycho-emotional disorders, and psycho-emotional disorders that are basically related to existential crises. In order to do that, you have to have a sort of basic understanding of how psycho-emotional suffering occurs. And so to do that, you have to really have some foundational knowledge of the five spirits. If we look at the five spirits in terms of what they do and what goes wrong when they're out of balance, then we can begin to identify certain aspects of psychoemotional. So we look at these Wu Shen, or five spirits, as being the spiritual or mental aspect of what it means to be human. Those five spirits represent some level of function, some level of embodiment, some level of consciousness and awareness that represents what it means to be a fully embodied human being. When these spirits are in alignment and well nourished and functioning well, they empower us to pursue our destiny. When they are out of balance, we sort of lay down to fate. We feel more victimized. We feel less empowered to pursue meaning and purpose in our lives. These spirits allow us to use consciousness to consciously intend for change to benefit us. If we want to change something that we're doing, or some way that we're living, or some choices that we're making, then we have to be able to recognize where we are unconscious or where we are habituated in our lives, where we're robotic in our lives, less mindful in our lives. And these spirits allow us to actually make a choice to intend for things to be different. And that intention ignites a sort of impulse that allows us to connect with the essence of who we are, our inborn potential, the authenticity of who we are, and engage that so that change can occur. So basically, if we can look at these five spirits, what we begin to see is what an important part they play in making us unique, making us who we are as human beings. And so if we're going to treat psycho-emotional suffering, we need to have an understanding of what these particular spirits are capable of and what it looks like when they're out of balance. So we look first at the Shen, sometimes translated as spirit, sometimes translated as mind. I'm not sure that either one of those is a really good translation for what Shen represents. So I don't tend to translate it very much when I talk about it. I just use the Chinese word. So the Shen is about consciousness. It's about your capacity for self-awareness. It's about the capacity that you have as an individual to be aware of the current reality. So it's sort of the opposite of denial or unconsciousness, right? This is about the ability to think. It's the ability to access memory. It is about your capacity to use your brain and your sea of marrow to have clarity of thought. Once you have this clarity of thought, then the Shen allows you to have insight and wisdom. So we store knowledge as we're learning over time, but it is the embodiment of that knowledge through the Shen which allows us to turn the knowledge into wisdom, right? So knowledge is important, but knowledge isn't wisdom in and of itself. Wisdom comes from knowing when the knowledge is important or how to use the knowledge in a powerful way. So if our Shen is healthy, then we have clear insight. We can develop wisdom based on life's experiences. The Shen also is a very big part of your personality. How you present yourself to the world or express the truth of who you are to the world in terms of your personality comes through your Shen. It also governs the five senses. This is an important thing because this is about having consciousness about how you take the outside world in. How do you take the world in through your eyes? How do you take the world in through your ears? How do you take the world in through your nose? How do you take the world in through your mouth? These senses allow us to have an awareness of reality, to have an awareness of what's going on in the world. The Shen also plays a very important role in sleep. If the Shen is unsettled or unanchored or not well nourished, then sleep becomes challenging. And sleep is a very important way that we heal in life. I've really noticed that maybe 75 or 80% of the patients that I'm treating now have some kind of sleep disorder. That the stress of what is going on in their lives and in the world around them is affecting their sleep in a multitude of ways, not just in one way, but in many ways. Some people are having trouble getting to sleep because their minds won't shut down. Some people are having trouble staying asleep. Some people are having dream disturbed sleep or nightmares. It's a challenging time to get good sleep. And that is truly unfortunate because sleep is very important right now. Because we're under this tremendous amount of stress, we need the sleep to recover from that stress. So if the Shen is disturbed, then sleep becomes more difficult. So in addition to those sort of basic things, it is important to recognize the power of the Shen as being the sort of lead spirit of the five spirits. This is the spirit that allows us to fully express what heaven has given us. We have a heavenly mandate. We've been given the gifts from the cosmos, from the universe, from the heaven, that are essential for us to fully express ourselves in our time here on Earth. And the Shen is the spirit that reflects that gift. It is a very important spirit in terms of governing your emotional life. Chinese medicine, when we think about emotional life, we often think about the cyclic nature of the liver and the smooth flow of liver qi. And that is important processing and dealing with emotions. But the spirit that has to develop consciousness around emotional experiences so that emotional experiences have value in terms of growth is the Shen. The Shen also permits cohesion between the psyche, your psycho-emotional processing, and your emotions. So the Shen is responsible for helping us to use emotion as a tool for growth and to experience emotion in a way that makes us more human and more compassionate and more loving and more kind. And it is as the sort of lead spirit, the spirit that governs the relationship between all five spirits together. So if the Shen is disturbed, then the other four are affected by that. And if the Shen is healthy and anchored and supported well, then it can take disturbances in the other four spirits and move through those disturbances a little more efficiently. So a good Shen means a good prognosis. If there is something wrong with the Shen, if it is not healthy, if it is affected by experience or by ill health in other ways, then patients present with memory problems, they present with sleep disorders, they present with mood disorders or other psychiatric disorders like anxiety, depression, panic attacks. We also see cognitive disorders with Shen pathology where people can't think clearly. This can be memory loss, but it can also be problems with speech. Certain types of aphasia are cognitive issues. This can be things like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, where the capacity for thinking is impaired. We also see learning disorders. We cannot learn new things if we can't embody information through the Shen. And we see relationship disorders. If your Shen is unhappy, it is very difficult to make connections with other human beings. And so it's a vital importance to have a healthy Shen. The next spirit is the Paw, or corporeal soul. This spirit gets its name from the Latin corpus, meaning body, and by body, they just mean dead or alive, just the container. This spirit is often considered the somatic expression of the soul. By somatic, I mean it is how the soul experiences being in a